Terence Crawford K.O.'s Avanesyan. Are you impressed? And why didn't he call out Errol Spence Jr.? Alright, y'all, it's your boy Cardinal Red Sports. Let's talk about it. So, Terence Crawford scored the big KO victory last night in Omaha, Nebraska versus David Avanesyan. And I wanted to get my thoughts on how the fight turned out, and was I impressed by Crawford's victory, and the reason why he didn't really call out Errol Spence after the fight. As far as the fight goes, you know, it started off slow for Crawford. Crawford definitely took his time to feel Avanesyan out. Do I feel like he needed to do that? Not really, because nothing Avanesyan was really doing was really challenging Crawford that much. Avanesyan was landing some shots. He landed some pretty decent shots in the beginning of the fight. But what I noticed when I watched a little bit of the press conference was how much bigger Terence Crawford was than Avanesyan. And I think a light bulb went off in my head. It seems like Terence Crawford is extremely aggressive with people that are smaller than him. He's very willing to challenge himself when the fighter across from him doesn't have the physical stature or the boxing traits that Terence Crawford possesses. Then he's more of a bully type of fighter. You know, he basically spent the whole fight kind of trying to bully Avanesyan around the ring, trying to play the tough guy, you know, with Avanesyan. He was landing some decent shots. His jab was working the whole night. What I noticed about Crawford, though, is he takes a punch. He definitely gets hit. You know, I didn't think, because I haven't watched a lot of Crawford fights. I watched the last few Crawford fights, you know, the Kell Brook fight, the Sean Porter fight. But what I noticed is that he gets hit a lot. And, you know, that's not good for a smaller fighter, especially when you're talking about fighting a guy like Errol Spence Jr. If Errol Spence Jr. had landed some of those shots that Avanesyan landed, Terence Crawford would probably be asleep on the canvas. But because Avanesyan's stature isn't that big, because Avanesyan's not a super big welterweight puncher, like, he was landing some decent shots, but you can tell there was real no knockout power on those punches. And Terence Crawford pretty much just took advantage of that for however long the fight lasted. I think it was 5 or 6 rounds. And I do feel like Avanesyan exposed something about Crawford that really hasn't been talked about a lot, and that's the fact that his footwork and the way he moves, it seems like it's slowing down. I don't know if that's a sign of age or if that's a sign of inactivity. You know, was it ring rust that made him look so average in the ring with Avanesyan? Because I did say that Avanesyan didn't do anything spectacular. I didn't really see Crawford do anything spectacular. He worked off the jab. He threw combinations. He caught Avanesyan with a great shot, you know, that Avanesyan never saw coming. In no way do I feel like he could have landed that shot on Errol Spence at all. In no way do I feel like Errol Spence would have just stood there and tried to slug it out and not utilize the entire ring like Avanesyan did. Avanesyan tried to slug it out with Crawford. You know, Avanesyan is, what they kept saying was he's a power puncher, but I don't see the power. You know, that's the funny thing about boxing. You could call one guy a power puncher, and when he gets into the ring with someone that's bigger than him, the power's gone. There is no more power. The same thing for Crawford. They keep calling Terence Crawford a power puncher. They said he was hitting him with solid power shots. I don't ever remember seeing the power shots. He caught Avanesyan with a shot Avanesyan never saw coming, and it was a shot that was in a combination, you know. So it wasn't like I don't even think Terence Crawford knew he was going to hit him with that shot. I think it was just a shot he threw to try to back him up with, but it ended up flooring Avanesyan. Now, I said in a couple of a video or two ago that I felt like Crawford would knock Avanesyan out, and if the fight dragged on into the 10th round or anything past the 7th round, then you can kind of feel like Crawford, his skill sets might be degrading a little bit, because there's no reason a number 6 should be pushing a number 1 or a champion that hard. And I think Avanesyan gave him a few good rounds, and I think Crawford, talent level show. You know, he's a talent level above, or a few talent levels above David Avanesyan. And it definitely showed. And I do feel like Crawford's skills, Crawford as a speed fighter, as a power puncher, I don't think it's there anymore. And I don't think it's there when he fights bigger, tougher, you know, higher level competition. I think once he does run into a guy like Errol Spence Jr. or even someone better, maybe a Boots Ennis or a Virgil Ortiz, you're going to see Terence Crawford get hit, and get hit a lot. You might see Terence Crawford get knocked out. At no point during that fight was I impressed, to be honest with you, with Crawford. And, you know, take nothing away from Terence Crawford. I'm not trying to say he's not a good fighter or anything, but the competition level made that fight seem like it was supposed to go that way. So, you know, I hate to not give him any credit, but I can't really give Terence Crawford any credit for that win. He knocked him out. You know, I think 9 out of 10 fighters will probably knock Avanesyan out, especially if they're a little bit more skilled, got a little bit more speed, and a little bit of power to go with it. You know, if you can throw combination punches, you can knock a guy like Avanesyan out. I do feel like his speed, his movement, and his all-around boxing ability is slowing down a little bit, because I do feel like he could have got Avanesyan out of there a lot quicker if he wanted to. Perhaps he has to warm his body up. You know, perhaps his body just won't allow for him to do the things that he's normally used to. I kind of feel like Terence Crawford is about to hit that level to where he's going to retire. I almost felt like he was going to retire in the ring last night, the way that they were talking, the way he was talking. And it, you know, it kind of confused me, because they asked him about Errol Spence, and as much as he's been talking about Errol Spence for the past 2 weeks, past month, the past year, he really had nothing to say about Errol Spence. He said that the BLK Prime deal was a one-fight deal. He's got to go back to the drawing table and see where he's gonna be this next move. Well, you know, what's the picture he's gonna paint next. He didn't really give any insight on who he plans on fighting next, who he wants to fight next, or if he'll be around to fight next. You know, it almost seemed like he wanted to retire last night. He kept thinking Omaha and saying that that'll be the last time he fights in front of them. You know, perhaps in his mind, the Errol Spence Jr. fight is his last fight. It almost seems like he knows it. It almost seems like he's preparing for that inevitable moment of when Errol Spence knocks him out. You know, congratulations to Manny Pacquiao. He fought last night too. It was interesting to watch that. They didn't get the biggest crowd, but you know, it was interesting to see Pacquiao back in action. The other guy had no chance. DKO had no chance. But you know, as far as Spence, Crawford, and Avanesyan go, I'm glad that situation's over with. You know, Terence Crawford was out of the ring for a while. He looked a little rusty, a lot of rusty if you ask me. And if he would have fought Errol Spence last night and not Avanesyan, he would no longer be a champion. Y'all let me know what y'all think about that down in the comment section below. Hit that like button for me. Share. Subscribe. Holler at me on all social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. More than likely to get a response on YouTube. And we are mad. He's low. That's why they hating on me. He's low. That's why they hating on me. He's low. That's why they hating on me. He's low. Feel niggas hate local music, but yet and still I promote the music. A hard-headed nigga couldn't coach me through shit. I thought they wouldn't hate, my approach is too sick. Motion music, promote the movement. They play it in the crowd and they both is moving. The chicks and G's bumping their head instantly. It never made no sense to me how a nigga gotta leave the Ville just to receive a deal. I need the bills, so if I gotta leave I will. But I'd rather stay, let them see the skills. Shoot a video, let them see the Ville. Do a couple scenes on 18th and Hill. Open up wide, let them see your grill. That boy Keys is for real. But he's low.